Is it me? Or did that longshoreman strike end prematurely? All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Mr. Foxy I Refuse podcast. I'm back here to talk about some things that's been on my mind the last 24 hours. Y'all are really going to get sick of me after this, but gotta talk about it. So, first things first. Hi, I'm Mr. Foxy I Refuse podcast. Welcome. So glad you can come. You know, I was minding my African American business, like I always do. And yet again, can't make it 2 days. Shit, barely a day at this point, without any nonsense. This longshoreman strike. I wasn't tripping at first, like y'all were. Acting like it was Y2K again. Going out to the Walmart, going out to the Target, going out to the Boscovs, going out wherever, buying up all this damn toilet paper. Like y'all don't have running water and washcloths at home. Just saying. Y'all doing it again. Buying the toilet paper, buying up all the milk, buying up all the buying up all the hot balls of the water. Like, y'all really were acting like it was the end of days again. Y'all pulled the same shit. Wasn't tripping then, cause I'm like, this is interesting. You know, the strikes are nothing new. You know, security guards go on strike, Amazon workers go on strike. You know, it's your prerogative to strike, right? But then, by the next time I had coffee, 2 or 3 days later, the longshoreman strike was over. After just 3 days. Now, in that time, you know, at the beginning, you know, this Harold Daggett guy, who is the president of the union, was out there with the people, all in the news camera, just being very fiery, being very passionate, being somewhat charismatic. I'm just going off what y'all been saying, and I've been watching the news a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is nothing new. You know, some of us that have been part of a union are like, okay, this man is about getting this done. Now, initially, when news first broke that the strike was happening, there was word that all the truckers and all the portsman people wanted a 77% pay raise across the board. I was like, ooh, that's a little high. That's a little high. Now, I don't know the wage and the salary of a longshoreman and a trucker and all these peoples. But there was one person that made a very valid point. Like, we're working during the pandemic. We've been working since, you know, the pandemic. Never slowed down, never stopped. All we're just asking for is, I think he said, $2 increase. I was like, that's not bad. And I was like, well, why strike now, though? Like, we're about 4 or 5 seasons into the pandemic. But, you know, strike when you can, you know? Then I realized, oh, this is right around, like, the beginning of the fiscal year, end of the fiscal year, for those of you that don't know. I was like, okay, maybe, you know, it's definitely a contract thing. This is probably around the time that contract renewals happen, and they want to strike now. I don't know how long before this point that they have been griping. I'm like, okay, if you've been busting your ass in all kinds of weather, sick, not sick, possibly had, you know, old girl in your throat, didn't have old girl in your throat, didn't know, was working around people that possibly had old girl in their throat, possibly didn't, working regardless, putting your body and your health, secondary or tertiary, to the job. I mean, what's $2? So I was like, okay, cool. So when it got down to the news that came out recently that the strike was over, I'm foreshadowing with these air quotes. It's like, damn, that was quick. In the history of Norma Ray, who is a fictional movie character, but is a culmination of various figures who are working their ass off, abandoning their families, dedicated to the job, and possibly working illegally by labor laws. Working that you just going. Like, what's $2, right? I've seen strikes last longer than 3 days. A week, couple of weeks, even longer. And the outcome sometimes is that these people are either moved on or forced out, and they just bring in a new batch of security guards. And, you know, they're pretty, I'm using that as an example out of my own life. I'm not a security guard. I'm just talking on what I've seen. And they'll do it right outside the gate as you're coming into work, and you're giving up the thumbs up. I've seen people do it. And then before you know it, you don't see those people anymore. Or it in a PR publicity move, they'll give a think piece or a temporary agreement just for you to stop making them look bad in these streets. Not illegal, but definitely moves can be made, right? Again, I'm foreshadowing. So, for the longshoreman strike to end in 3 days, I was like, that's interesting. That's the first thing, the first red flag. Then a couple of things started to materialize in the past 24 hours. You know, this Harold Daggett guy, I would say he, in my eyes, this is my opinion, when you have the kind of person, and I touched on this on Monday's episode of the podcast, season 6 available everywhere where you get your podcasts, the kind of people that to the public is saying the right things, is getting people inspired and all this other stuff, but possibly could very well possibly be in favor behind the scenes when nobody's looking. Like I said, 3 days is a relatively short strike, and it's, when I say it's concluded, it's essentially a temporary situation to give people time until January 15th. That's an interesting date. To negotiate, figure out salaries, things of that nature. Then I thought, this is within 5 or so weeks away from the elections. This is very strange. This is very interesting. Then come to find out that apparently, allegedly, Harold Daggett is shoulder buddies with 45. There's a picture that came up of them shaking hands and looking quite chummy. And it's allegedly word on the street is that he told union folks and the workers to pray for 45. I was like, isn't this like a conflict of interest? So, for it to end in 3 days, and, you know, Biden has come out and applauded the move. You know, bless Biden. It's no disrespect, but this is my opinion. When you are of a certain age, I think the tunnel vision is a little bit smaller. I don't think he's seeing outside of the move and what this means. I've said before that 45 has been pulling stunts, and, you know, with that, there are no details as to the outcome of those stunts. You know, you haven't heard any more about the 2 attempts. You've seen more production or accountability shows for the heads and the powers of that be of the Secret Service. And just like with that, you haven't seen or heard any details as to what and how the strike was concluded. And I'm like, It's not lost on me that some of y'all are essentially sustaining a celebrity. And when I say celebrity, a person that is for the camera, a person that is for the attention, it's giving basic minimum requirements for a job. And I jokingly said back in 2016 that if this person can make it into the most coveted position, I don't want to have to take another assessment. Like applying for a job, and during the course of applying for the job, there are up to 6 assessments for this job. I quit after the 3rd one. And then it's like, when you get past all of that, there are like 4 or 5 interviews for a job that doesn't pay all that well. I'm like, after the 3rd interview, after the 3rd assessment, just give you my start date and I'll just move in. Because what are we doing here? I shouldn't have to, and y'all shouldn't have to either, if all it takes really is to have the gift of gab at this point. Like, the bar is low. And look at what has happened the past almost 10 years. Just saying. So it led me to think, okay, strike is over that fast. Never seen that happen in the history of my life. You got this this Daggett guy who doesn't really give me the presence of mind that he is that effective, because there are more days behind this thing than there are in front. I'm sure there have been long-standing issues for years that have led a lot of the longshoremen and the port workers to reach a breaking point, only for it to be resolved in 3 days. And for you to say to folks to pray for 45, why? What's he got to do with all of this? I'm not Oda Mae Brown, but it's giving that old boy was paid off. And if he wasn't outrightly, there was more benefit discussed and persuaded in his direction to resolve this. I mean, we are talking about somebody that's cross. I'm talking about the other person, not Daggett. That is known that cross many ethical and moral lines. Like, there's literally nothing starving his ambitions to get back in there and do his thing, whatever that is. Just saying. I mean, do you see? Like, it's just giving that, and it's unfortunate if that is the case. This is all alleged. If that is the case, it's so unfortunate because it undermines what unions are for. They're supposed to be for the people. And you know, if I was somebody that was having my payroll, my pay deducted to pay these people, and I see that there's a conflict of interest in the other person's direction to pacify us. And it could possibly be a situation where it's like, verbally, this is what we're presenting. The concept and the idea. But the reality starts to seep in somewhere between now and January 15th. Meanwhile, this is the perfect photo op and publicity op to satisfy the public's perception so we can get this guy back into office. For those of you that are just joining, I think Daggett was paid off. Again, my opinion, my theories, my channel, my opinions. But we'll see. Smoke and mirrors. January 15th. Too close to January the 6th. Everybody will be distracted by that. But by then it'll probably be too late. I think that's really close to the inauguration, by the way. But moving on. TikTok social media influencer, Mr. Prada, offs his therapist. I get it. So, I only heard about Mr. Prada recently tied to this thing. They captured him down in the South somewhere. I believe it was in Louisiana, or I think that's where he's from. They caught him on the lam. He was initially a person of interest, and he's been charged with second-degree murder for the unaliving of his therapist. Taking his car, they say that the death was caused allegedly by blunt force trauma to the head, among other things. Covering the body with the tarp, taking his car, I believe crashing the car, and just la-di-da, la-di-da, la-di-da. Now, I'm not about to get on here and hop on the train and line of thinking as other people when it comes to mental health and say similar shit that everybody else says when it comes to people that suffer from mental health, and using, his TikTok content with, the patches in his hair and all that other stuff as part of an argument. Because as somebody that suffers from mental health, I clocked in as early as 18, 19 years of age, and it hasn't let go since. Childhood trauma, unpacking all that other stuff. Might do a video about that later. So, when it comes to Mr. Prada and this whole thing, when I heard about it, and then I heard about the doctor's background, where he got some heat, rightfully so, for, I wasn't there, so I'm going to say allegedly, groping, sexually assaulting an 11-year-old 9 years ago. I don't know the particulars that inspired Mr. Prada to allegedly off this guy. But one thing I came to conclude my own thinking, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will get me together, is that what if possibly the 11-year-old was Mr. Prada? Or what if the doctor, who I don't think received any jail time, received any kind of pushback, didn't get his license taken away, was still able to practice, but never got any consequences for what happened 9 years ago, was still doing it and tried it on Mr. Prada. And one thing I want people out here to understand is, it's with these cases coming out about these guys, and the first person that comes to mind is Larry Nassau, who are in such a trusted profession with the minds and the bodies and the well-being and the health of so many young people. And they cross those lines. They abuse their position to gain access, very inappropriately so, to these young people. And they've been doing it for so long. And it comes to our attention after they've done their, the feds have done their investigation. Oh, they've been doing this longer than we thought. And here we are on the outside looking in at, the athletes at the Olympics or Mr. Prada on TikTok. And when the fuse ignites the dynamite and goes off and there's a trial and all this stuff comes out, or, the doctor ends up unalived, I would think the first thing we would think about or consider is the victims, and not hop on the, oh, well, the motherfucker was crazy, it was just bound to happen, and look at his TikToks, he don't look like he's wrapped too tight. This is exactly why people that suffer from mental health issues and have a hard time Don't open up. Because it's either, well, see, that's what you get for not going to Sunday service. See, that's what you get for not finding Jesus early. It's this, it's that. It's something to satisfy the person that has the judgment or the opinion, satisfying their bias and how righteous they are. Like, you got to remember, we are in a climate right now where the veil is off of what has long been pushed under the rug and so secretive. And it's these predators, and they're not always just, the neighbor in the neighborhood. Some of them are doctors, some of them are lawyers, some of them wear lab coats and suit and ties and sit across from your children. It's the image of the predator has changed over the years. And that's the theory I'm sticking with. While I do not condone the idea that the conclusion to being abused and being touched inappropriately and sexually assaulted is murder, I get it. I get it. I'm not in that person's shoes, and neither are you. I'm willing to bet there is a great deal of abuse that Mr. Prater has endured. Dare I say, grooming, alienating, and isolating a person from others. Psychological abuse, an emotional hostage situation, like different variables that lead to a shift in a person, right? And here you have a person, this other person of considerable power and influence, and using their position to manipulate people. If you don't do this, this will happen. If you don't give me what I want, I will release this information about you. And you as a patient, you're like, you hear that enough, you start to believe it. And they start fucking with you. And they start messing with you in other ways in addition to the assaults. I'd never murder. But some things are a perfect storm. Taking time bomb waiting to go off. And I think there's a discussion that needs to be had amongst us out here, especially during these times where we have to be a little bit more informed as to what mental illness is, different forms, and what the nature and the significant abuse of power from all walks, all kinds, not just movie executives, not just, powerful producers, not just powerful directors with some tendencies. Just like I said, it could be doctors and lawyers and medical professionals as well. So, given that it was a second-degree murder charge, it gives me the impression that they're not looking at this as a premeditated or a malice-filled murder, which could possibly open the door for a lot of counter arguments, and possibly a degrade to manslaughter. Like, so his defense, again, my opinion, my theory, Mr. Prater's defense team could definitely maximize the mental health, psychosis, mental severity issue as a prominent defense, which could lead to him possibly being convicted of manslaughter, which at the most will probably lead to probation or definitely some time in a mental health institution, halfway house, so on and so forth. And I know I can also theorize that the case can go in the direction of what you would see in like a RICO case. Like, they will delve into the doctor's background and personal history, his character, to paint this picture of a predator. And I'm sure what happened 9 years ago will come up during the trial. And they'll call in other victims, other patients. Oh, it'll be something to watch. And I'm sure Law and Crime YouTube channel will cover it. And I will be locked in. Because it's just not cool, right? And I'm sure a lot of people from the outside looking in will be like, oh, well, why did they do that? Well, that's not, it's fair game. You don't have to agree with murder. I don't. But you don't know what was occurring behind the scenes. Hence why it's going to come up in trial, is my theory. So, I still hold very close and firmly believe that the last place a person with mental health issues or a cognitive defect or a mental defect or is autistic or is a sexual assault survivor is a clear victim of those kind of things, I think the last place they should be is in jail. I think the last thing they should be doing is serving time. Because jail changes you. And what does it say to us as a society that we throw people like that in jail around like real criminals? Moving on. My good sis, Jaguar WRIGHT, has gone international. She was on Piers Morgan. Iconic. So, the good auntie in my head on, of the I Refuse podcast, who we've been talking about for a long time, is now international. Has gone on Piers Morgan, Jaguar WRIGHT, R&B songstress, writer, musician, Dallas native, I believe, Philly associated, Roots Associated, Soul Aquarians Associated, has been making her rounds, gaining a lot of traction across YouTube, across podcasts, across blogs, has been getting a lot of journalistic shine, speaking on the Diddy situation. So if you've been living under a rock, living in Amish country, living in the backwoods of America, we here on the Our Fuse podcast have been following our good sis, Jaguar WRIGHT, since damn near 2020, 2021, since she started popping up again on IG Live. Around the time that Malik B, the originator and founder of The Roots, passed away. And it was during that purge on IG Live that Jaguar WRIGHT was throwing us all in the group chat on a regular, I say daily, weekly basis to spill all the tea. Which was a treat to see. You truly had to be there. This was at the prominence of, what's that app that we were using that we don't use that much anymore? Not Blackboard, it was, you know the one. But literally it was sending a lot of people in the tailspin. During that time, she was talking about Common, Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, The Roots, touring, waking up, and this was in her words. She went, one of the stories that stuck out to me, we talked about it on the I Refuse podcast, season 2, I believe. The Boys Club episodes, by the way. The abuse she experienced while on tour. And given that I was outside at that time, like the timeline checked out. For her to have as much detail, and this is one of the reasons why I'm in the 1% that still rides with her. Not 1,000%, but most of what she's saying is coming out to be true in my eyes. The timeline and what she had to say, I was like, oh wow. And how she was tightly interwoven with the Roots and the Soul Aquarians and all that stuff. I was like, ooh, this is so good. So fast forward, we talked about how the need to protect Black women and how across the board in different industries, it's just terrible. And it's absolutely necessary. If there's any demographic we need to hear from, still to this day, it's Black women in the industry. Yes, it's cute that the female rappers are doing biopics and memoirs and stuff. But if there's any demographic or career path of women that we would love to hear from more than ever, are female executives that were at the Def Jams and were at the Bad Boys, and female former video vixens that were at the music videos, that were brought into some of these parties and stuff like that. And that's another layer as to why I'm still rocking with Jaguar WRIGHT, because while it may be true that she is suffering from mental illness, and yes, while it may be true that she is having these issues with personal people, the husband who's now an ex-husband, the father of her son, stuff regarding her son and the ashes and stuff like that. We have all this stuff kind of playing out on social media. I find it quite interesting that all of it starts to come out while a lot of us are eating up these, which I'll call conspiracy theories about J and B and the Illuminati and stuff like that. At the end of the day, again, while I said that I don't fully ride with everything that this lady says, there's something about a train wreck that you just can't turn away from. And we stay clocked in, we stay watching, and she keeps it entertaining, she keeps the thoughts. And there is a ring of truth to this idea of, well, if all she's saying are a bunch of lies, why isn't anybody suing her? And here comes DJ Vlad coming down on the Bird app a couple days ago talking about something to the effect of, what's the point of suing somebody that has nothing? And I said in the comments section, why don't you ask Tasha K? I mean, filing a lawsuit or, releasing allegations is a tactic to get somebody to slow down or stop speaking on them. But at the rate and the traction that things are going these days, prime example, this Diddy situation. Y'all were talking this same mess last fall. Now look at where we're at. And you don't think there's overlap with Diddy and his parties, and we've seen the list that's come out where I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's the smoking gun to, oh, these are the people that were involved in the freak-offs and stuff, but a lot of theories are coming out about that. There's overlap with Jaguar's existence in the industry and these parties. There's overlap with the people that have attended those parties and her association with Jay and what she's possibly seen. People think that the here now and her distance from relevancy is mutually exclusive to her merit to what she's saying. And just like with the Diddy memes, y'all have taken to TikTok and social media and making the memes, so particularly around the baby oil, which has pissed off Cassie, which I'll get into that later. But y'all are essentially mocking Jaguar, right? There's this guy on TikTok that is it's funny to me, but there's no possible way for a person to keep going this long and 90% of it be a lie. Like, you don't think at the height of people's careers that Diddy has been associated with as a producer, Jaguar Wright, hasn't seen or experienced or known things? Quiet as it's kept, when it comes to a memoir that should come out, it should be hers. And I feel like if she keeps talking, that there will be more opportunities coming her way. I had this thought last night. If they were to do a Lifetime biopic, they should get Lisa Nicole Carson to play Jaguar Wright in this biopic. Two people that allegedly suffer from mental illness. Two people that have been allegedly blackballed and blacklisted. Two people. Lisa Nicole Carson, who was on Ally McBeal back in the day, was in Jason's Lyric. Just gorgeous. Can pull it off. Mark my words. Like, if they can do a biopic on Miss Cleo and have Lady of Rage play Miss Cleo, they can do a biopic, a little, freebie, Tubi. I mean, Lifetime was setting the bar kind of high. Cautionary Tale, starring Lisa Nicole Carson as Jaguar Wright. You heard it here. So, I'm not... At the most, I'm entertained by Jaguar Wright. At the very least, there is some truth to what she's saying. And she is just, for the most part these days, just opining, just like the rest of us. Now, y'all can poke fun, which I think is a little tacky and tasteless, because the same people that are making fun and making these TikToks and stuff are the same people that have been made aware that this lady is suffering from something. But the bar is so low for social media engagement that we already know that y'all will blab and discuss anything. There's no privacy and no secrets. Y'all have this level of entitlement. Y'all don't know these people. And she is, throughout all this, especially when it comes to Diddy, is giving the same energy that Azalea Banks is giving. Another problematic fave of mine. And it's still the year of what Cat Williams said back in the Shannon Sharp interview earlier this year. This will be the year of people being exposed. And I know some of y'all are outside talking about he should have closed the portal because Jaguar Wright is just off the hook these days. Listen, say what you want. For Jaguar Wright to go from IG Live to, the Written Report podcast, and, YouTube Shorts, to Piers Morgan, who, Piers Morgan, I wouldn't put in the same vein of like an Anderson Cooper. Totally junk tabloid, celebrity, celeb, will give a mic to anybody. Still international. While we are on the outside saying the same shit about Jaguar Wright. But I think a year from now, people will look back and be like, dang, she knew what she was talking about. She may be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but she's not doing any more, any less than what I'm doing right now in front of y'all. And what I've been doing on the YouTube channel just this past year alone, almost, with the Surviving Diddy series. Get into that. So I'm going to rock with Jaguar Wright because she has a story to tell. I wasn't there, but when she first started telling her story, the timelines were timelining. And she hasn't been stopped yet, so. And in the shadow of her talking, more blind items have come out, and a lot of shifts have been happening beyond Diddy. a lot of shifts in the personal lives, allegedly, of the celebrities that love those freak offs. You know, allegedly wives moving out of the house, people, of course, distancing themselves, but definitely a lot of shifts happening. And it birds of a feather. Birds of a feather, but you know, there is a lot of stuff still coming out around Diddy. And I think as long as that'll continue to happen, Jaguar Wright will continue to keep talking. You know, it's often been said that a child not embraced by the village will burn it down in order to feel its warmth. And I'm here for it. Moving on. Child. That D-list rapper has split from the Little Mermaid. Is it she to say that I saw it coming? So, DDG, I can't name a song of his, has split from Halle Bailey. Keep catching myself saying Barry. And this Mr. Fox kind of saw it coming. First of all, too fast, too soon. He was doing a lot of TikToks with just him and the baby. Without her, both of them are young. It's a shame though, right? Because, you know, if it was up to me, I would have preferred not to have known that such a thing was happening in the first place. And it's unfortunate because it was happening, the news broke right around the time that this girl was on the path with Disney. And this is aside from the fact that, you know, I feel like the solo career happened a little too prematurely. But I'm all for black people, particularly young black folks, getting the coin. And Disney coin is long coin. So for Halle Bailey to be selected to be the Little Mermaid, I was like, okay. And people were heated. People were heated about it. Trying to blame it on the CGI. When I was really upset that the Little Mermaid was, in this adaptation, was black and had natural hair. But, you know, you had that going on. She was trying to hide the pregnancy. But we saw it from a mile away on the live or wherever it was. And I was just like, damn. And I said on the podcast last season that I feel like that's why the movie didn't blow as big as it did. And that's why she was not up for a Golden Globe nomination for the song. There was I think a new song she did for the soundtrack. Because if there's anything I know about these family-friendly, public-conscious brands like Disney, it's just not a good look for a pregnant, unwed, young star to be out here like that. Just my theory, just my opinion. So DDG knocked her up pretty early in their relationship. Where did they get married? Were they ever married? Whatever. She had the baby, healthy, beautiful baby. We haven't seen or like heard anything more career-wise as to what she's been up to since having the baby, while pregnant or whatever. The Little Mermaid came and went. I don't even know if there was any final tally on the movie, but it came and went. The Color Purple that her sister was in, that came and went. That didn't do too well. So it was like, looking back, some people are like, this man came into this girl's life, knocked her up while everything was promising, only to turn around and leave her like a year later. And I'm like, ugh. Another sad statistic, kind of saw it coming. You know, when you're young and in love and you fall for, you know, the braids, and you haven't seen anything that this dude has been working on. It's like, this dude is just in-house peen. It's a shame. It's just a shame all around that here you have Halle Bailey, one half of Chloe and Halle. They had that bomb-ass second album, and they could have wrote that well until like 2018, 2019, a little bit longer. And then they tried to push them on us individually. And Chloe took a little while for some folks on the last album, and then this most recent one kind of came and went. But for Halle, it's like things kind of stopped for a little bit. And it was starting to look like it was more a DDG thing. Oh, look at the baby. They're doing TikToks. This is cute. And he leaves. They split up. If it was her decision, thank God. If it was her decision, thank goodness. Because it's starting to look like the guys in the relationship are what's weighing the celebrity women down. And, you know, once the season passes for a movie and a song and an album, it's, you got to keep working. You got to keep working on new stuff. So for Halle to not have something to show for the time since she's had the baby, career-wise, like I said, The Little Mermaid came and went. Any possibility for benefiting off of the shine from that has come and passed. I'm blaming it on DDG. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, it is a shame that it's gotten to this. Well, no, maybe it's not a shame. Halle Bailey can recover from this. I don't know what DDG is going to be doing, but at the end of the day, all pettiness and jokes aside, it's about the baby. It's about the baby. Halle could have possibly came to grips with the fact that she's not happy. If he's the one that called for the split, the nerve. The nerve of you, sir. Because you had it good. You really had it good with Halle Bailey. You done fucked up the thing. Moving on. So Cassie wants us to stop with the Diddy memes and the baby oil jokes. And I kind of want her to just disappear. Just fall back a little bit, girlfriend. You got the $30 million settlement. Some of us are still riding with you for a little bit. But you may want to stop talking. You and your lawyer. Here it is, almost a year since you, Cassie, filed a $30 million lawsuit against Diddy, right? And we've been following that since then. And I personally, on any page that I have, personal or representing this here podcast, have lauded you as a heroine, and I still do, against all things anti-Cassie, anti-pretty girl privilege. Oh, you know, she only won because she's pretty, and she was there enjoying the spoils and doing the, I'm just repeating what people are saying. Now you got this money and you're still talking, like, girl, disappear. And I'm kind of, while I'm not that aggressive and anti about it at this point, this is coming from a place of, you know, kind of read the room a little bit. If I was somebody that was terrorized, assaulted, harassed, not able to escape my abuser, I would keep a relatively low profile. Since filing a lawsuit of this magnitude. And while I can't speak for Cassie, I'm speaking for myself. With everybody in this climate of people being everybody's business and having this opinion that a lot of people think rings as true, even though we don't know these people, it is the smart move since November would be not to say anything at all. I know in an earlier video on this channel, I talked about or mentioned her, you know, Cassie's lawyer speaking out on the raid or something. And I thought, why is the lawyer speaking? Like, if you were hired and retained for this settlement back in November, and you got the settlement, why are we still active with this? Because it's kind of giving in some people's minds that you are pulling the strings behind the scenes on some things. And while I'm of the mindset of exposing people, thus making it hard for them to hide their shit, is perfectly reasonable. Like, if I've endured abuse, I've been harassed, I have been enduring a lot over a long period of time at the hands of this person. And I'm aware that he is paying folks off to hide any remnants or evidence. I'm going to pull the needle. I'm going to try my damnedest to pull the needle back and take the power back. And show the rest of y'all how it's done. If all of that and you've documented everything and you've gotten your settlement, I would think constantly talking and pushing out statements and stuff like that keeps you attached to it. And I would think, in some people's minds looking at this, are like, girl, why would you put yourself through this again? If you endured 10 to 15, almost 20 years of this kind of stuff, and this is post-indictment papers release, settlement, lawsuit documents release, and we've read it. And our stomachs have been turning, and you have I wouldn't say put us through it, but because we're nosy and we're doing it to ourselves. Like, why would you want to keep attaching yourself to any association to this post-settlement? And I'm sure a lot of people out here are still 10 toes down with the belief that it was easy to turn the narrative or turn the tables because you're pretty. And, the indictment and the allegations of the lawsuits have fanned the flames of bias for Diddy, that they putting this motherfucker on trial for being freaky. And it's like, there's more to it than that. There is definitely more to it than that. And all that and then some is going to come out over the course of this trial. And like I said on earlier videos, if I know anything about the feds, they don't pounce the next day. They've been investigating this dude for a long time. And if we've learned anything about humans, is when the seat's getting hot, they will turn. And there'll be more names coming out, which we've seen. So it's bigger than Cassie. Unfortunately, because we're so superficial and we are so narrow-minded, we just look at the surface and come to these kind of stupid conclusions to satisfy our own bias. Oh, another powerful man, another pretty girl. She was in there doing it with him. Now she wants money for the, I'm like, oh Lord. Can't even prove that she even got $30 million to begin with. Settle for an undisclosed amount, which I'm sure the details are sealed. Cassie is still, like I said, a hero in my mind. I am just speaking on the perception. And while I still stand 10 toes down with, I asked y'all last week to wrap up these Diddy memes and these Diddy jokes, because there's a lot of pain and suffering that has yet to fully be disclosed. There is part of me that believes, in the same breath, that a person that has benefited greatly, outcome-wise, should probably fall back a little bit. You know, in some people's minds, watching this, they're probably thinking it in some way negates the purpose of filing the lawsuit, or, you know, against Diddy back in November. Because if it was truly traumatic, why would you continue to attach yourself currently to anything regarding Diddy that's come out of your own papers, your own indictment, your own filings, your own documents? Because the thing, her documents, the filing last November was very detailed, which is very key into adding merit and legal merit and justification into what's being alleged in those same documents. Now, I think her speaking out further raises eyebrows on some people. Last week I was talking about this with somebody down at a seafood spot. It was brief, and I was low-key kind of offended. You know, I'm not a female rights lawyer or anything, but the big thing was that the over 1,000 bottles of baby oil. And of course, Cassie's name came up. And it was, the opinion was around of that she got off. And now she wants to play victim. Oh, boy. And this was coming from a woman. Like, had she been ugly, would you have found it justifiable? Would you have not had that opinion if she was ugly? Because she's not his only victim. That's the thing. She's not the only female that has caught hands and has been at the hands of his intimidation, harassment techniques, his tactics. The woman that got shot in the face at the nightclub is back in 99, 2000 in the New York City nightclub, is talking. So it's a mixed bag. For me though, if and when I am a victim of a traumatic experience, whether you feel like I was party to it, I just let it happen, and you know, there's pushback on me, which is a form of gaslighting, by the way. it's still a traumatic experience. I went to therapy. Again, I can't speak for somebody else. But I think Cassie's statement was more of an indictment of those of us out here that think this shit's funny when it's not. Because like I said, there's years of pain to this shit. When I tell you the bar of engagement, social media engagement, is in the gutter right now, it's led me to believe that, thank God social media wasn't around when the Underground Railroad was alive and active. Because had it been alive, there would be no Underground Railroad. Y'all would be on Facebook Live, showing Harriet Tubman, showing the map, showing everything. Showing Nat Turner where he is. Y'all would have shared y'all location with everybody. It would be a whole fucking mess. So I'm rocking with Cassie. But I also have my opinions as to why it's not the best approach to even continue to speak. Because you continue to attach yourself to your traumatic experience. And people out here already continue to still side-eye her because that's the pretty girl that won big, even though nobody knows the exact amount. Again, surface level, superficial. The crusty lip, raccoon eye brigade are like saying their little think pieces. Through their gingivited gums. I swear, y'all make it hard for women sometimes. Y'all make it hard for women. That's all I got. Ain't got no more. This is Mr. Fox I Refuse podcast. This has been real. Keep it locked and loaded on the I Refuse podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Get into our Twitter at I Refuse Podcast. Follow, subscribe there. Follow, subscribe on the Instagram at I Refuse Podcast. _ between the words. Get into the usual suspects in the I Refuse Podcast After Dark, if you ever feel so inclined. And I will catch you guys later. Peace. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse.